Hello, we're back again for a tour of the East Longmeadow new high school. As you can see the picture here of the rendering by the architects that will be finished 1 year from now, at least to be moved into. The front of the building, which we'll see today, the overlay of the old high school. Here's Maple Street, the new high school in behind. This is the back door of that small gymnasium. Will line up directly with the front door of the new school. And again, another rendering. If you look at the layout here, as you walk into the front door, to the right will be the auditorium, to the left will be the gymnasium, and if you walk straight through, there'll be the main cafeteria with the two educational wings, 2 stories high. That's the view coming in right from the front door. We're going to head outside and take a look at the new building with Fontaine. Hello and welcome. I'm Greg Thompson, School Committee Chair. Today being joined again by Mark Hogan from Fontaine Bros, the construction company of record here for our new high school. As you can see in the background, it's coming together nicely, the project. Today we're going to walk through and get an update on the whole thing. To our immediate left is the new concession stand, bathrooms, coming together nicely. We're super excited to have that. Over to the far left, as you come to the parking lot, those are the new tennis courts going in, and those are looking good as well.
As you can see, as Greg mentioned, the concession building is going, hoping to put the roof on next week, and then we'll start working a little bit on that, closing it up for the winter. That won't be online until next year. This is the outside basketball court. Will be right in this area here. We got to raise the grade right now. Like I was mentioned before, power comes from Maple Street to the switches that are behind the concession building, and that'll liven the field and the stadium. And then what happens there is the power continues down to our corral over here, which will power the building. So once I have it here and I can get the Musco poles online, our goal is to energize the field, and then we can remove this large transformer here, and I can finish this area here where the basketball courts are. When we kind of look here, you can kind of see the pool taking shape. The gutter's installed, piping's going in. Right now the electricians are working on grounding. Everything that goes in this pool gets grounded, whether it's an insert for a ladder, insert for the diving platforms, anything else all gets grounded. And so what they'll work right now is they're putting a form you can see underneath the gutter. Tomorrow we'll grout that gutter in place to kind of lock it all in place. And then once we'll do that, we're getting inspection on the plumbing around here, and we'll bring this pool up here. We'll start working on trench drains, the timing system, and everything else will go in there before we pour the slabs. This building is a block building, so once the slabs are poured, we'll start the masonry. The masonry carries the steel in this particular building. But you can kind of see the stairs over there where they're working on there, taking shape, and then you can see the pool as it goes down to the bottom there.
For those wondering who have been in the new parking lot, there is one new loop that has arrived. This will be the bus loop eventually, so the bus drop-off will be here, and once the existing building is demolished, there'll be another loop for car drop-off, so that will be separated when we do open the new building.
This loop that you're looking at is about 20 feet short, because the loop actually goes through the area there, the weight room in the building, and it comes around. So right now it's a little bit tighter. It'll be a little bit elongated when we're done.
As we walk by the gymnasium, this would be the entrance to the main building. As you can see and mentioned before, the architects designed it with some hints to the history of quarrying in this town, which is why we have these overhanging cliffs, and we'll have a lot of accents of the redstone and brownstone throughout the building.
You can kind of say, like I was saying before, the insulation on the roof, but the walls are insulated down to that roof level. You can kind of see that's kind of all energy in here. If you look in the walls up here, those are sprayed insulation up there. That's down from the top of the parapet to the top of the roof.
So again, as we talked about when we did the first pictures in the office, this is the main entrance. As you can see, it opens wide open into the cafeteria that goes way to the back. Again, the gym will be to the left, and the office and auditorium to the right.
But you can see the round spiral duct for the gym. That's going to start getting installed. He's doing hangers now. He'll start hanging that by next week, and that'll be up in the air. You can see high, the sprinkler pipe has already started. That's the highest pipe. So we got those guys up higher. From there, the duct goes. And then from after that, it'll be electrician.
We'll have the new weight room on the back side of the gym at the far side, and as you walk straight down this hallway, that'll be where the new pool will be. There'll be a an atrium in between the two, and then the new pool area.
So as you look over here, this is the auditorium here. You can kind of see the stage taking shape down in here. We have already fireproofed the ceiling. You can look at the deck and the ceilings above here. There's all been fireproof. So after the fireproofing follows, the guys starting to do the framing of the walls. The hangers are already up for the MEPs. Those will start shortly thereafter also. We'll be in here sometime next week actually grading the auditorium. And we're trying to do some of the high work now off of lifts because it's a little bit tough to reach a little bit later. Kitchen's going in. You can see the depressed slab over there. That's where the freezer cooler goes. So freezer cooler's in that area there. The gentlemen are starting to do insulation, and then vapor barrier will hopefully pour this by next week for the whole kitchen area. As you can see, it's a cluster of pipes and drains and everything else that goes with that.
And then this building will have a loading dock for the first time versus the old building, which did not, and that loading dock will be right there.
We're in the cafeteria now. Outdoor seating out there. Kitchen, servery, where we're standing right now, and here. The goal is to hopefully another week or so have this all concrete poured to here. Then we're working on the auditorium. And that's the last of our slab pours. We've started on the academic wings, framing and everything else. So we're actually done and inspected in wall in D and E on the first floor. D2 will be inspected next week, and we're starting to work our way through. We've started sheetrocking in the bottom, in the back of the classrooms in D1. You can take a walk down there and take a look at it. We can walk up and around. You can see the difference how this floor is depressed versus there, different type of flooring, right? Terrazzo goes here in the cafeteria and the kitchen area and tile, and then that will be linoleum there. So that's why we depress the slabs. So at the end of the day, they're
Terrazzo's thicker.
Yep.
Yep.
And as you look over here, you can see that Greg was talking, we have an actual loading dock over in there. And then with that gentleman, that vault there is the main electric room, and then there's emergency electric rooms around. That's kind of the heart of the building, right? That starts that over there. And the other side over there, that's a mechanical room over in there where all the mechanicals for the building will be. But you can see all the piping in the kitchen where it all has to hit the islands, has to hit the units, has to hit everything. So they're all coordinated to hopefully be in the right spot. So like we said, we start some of these rooms first. So that way we can start, you'll see when we get to some of the electric rooms upstairs, they're starting to do the panels, and we've got to pull all the wires to that. You can see, I'll show you later upstairs where some of the wires are already hanging. So you can look in this area here. We can take a look at like almost a typical classroom, we'll call it, as we start to do this. Insulation, sheetrock. We're starting to work our way through, and we're starting to sheetrock some of the rooms. They're starting to take shape a little bit. You can kind of take a feel of how they are. Door frames are coming next week. We'll kind of clean all this up, and then we'll actually start the tapers and painters before you know it.
And you have batting insulation on the interior
Bat insulation
walls
in the
as
exterior,
well, huh?
and then we have cavity, which is like the mineral wool on the exteriors.
Okay. Yep. Typical size classroom.
Typical size classroom.
Typical window setup.
Typical windows. Some of them have the borrowed lights in the hallways, depending where you're at. Yep.
Okay.
But you can see this is kind of like this area is pretty much ready. We're insulating, we're doing wall blocking, as you can see, to carry all the cabinets or whatever we need, or like Danielle mentioned, like the wood, there's a good sample there before we cover it, whiteboard and everything else, the strapping so they can screw it on the wall later. We cover all that with insulation and drywall, kind of the stuff you never see, right? A lot of these rooms are acoustically sealed to stop the noise from each one. So what she's doing right now is they're stuffing the top of the walls, and if you take a little closer look, so as you look at the top there, she's spraying that to seal that to cut sound from going from room to room, is how we're doing that. Now you'll see the same thing in areas that are fire rated, you'll see it red. That means we stuff with a different material, and we spray that also to make the rating. But what she's doing now is she's sealing all the tops of those and getting them before all the other trades, right now, before she can still get at it and close that up. You can kind of see the clear story take shape with the stairs here. Windows go up in here, and then we're in the same shape up in here. These guys are finishing the in-wall rough to kind of turn this over so we can start bringing the blocking and the insulation up in this floor also. But you can see it's all framed and ready for the trades. Like I mentioned before, as we work, and you see the black line, that's all the refrigeration lines, right? Cooling and heating in that area there. Hitting all his units, these are all done in this whole academic wing. He's complete here. And pretty much almost all of it's wrapped. It's insulated, so we're ready to move on forward from that trade. Kind of as I was mentioned before, the reason we turn electrical rooms over early is they have a lot of work. And you can see outside the coiled wire, right? So they pull all their home runs from the outlets or wherever they are from all over, and they end up back in your electric room, right? So what they do with that, and I don't know if they've started this one here, we can take a look, is they have the panels pre-made, and then somebody's in the eye will take and push these through and actually start bringing the panels in the building. You can kind of take a look in here. As we start, wires will come in, they'll go into the troughs, they go into the panels to distribute the power. So distribution is a huge thing. It takes a lot of time. You can see them starting out, you put wires in here. The coils on the outside will come into the troughs will go down to the panels will go to the breakers, and the breakers will distribute the power to the building. But you can see how, the coiled wires, the electrician has a lot of intricate work in this area, so we try to keep him ahead of the others. So these are the individual bathrooms that you talk about in here. So single-use bathrooms in these areas here. Some areas are gang bathrooms, like in the locker rooms and that areas down where there's the cafeteria. But in here in the classroom wings are the individual baths. So access to the roof right here. This is the one main stair to the roof. Every other roof, there's ladder access when you're on the roof. You go up, down, and over around to get to the other. There's two other accesses through windows that are actually window access, and one's over here and one is on the other side here, which gets you out to the roofs. You have a two-stop elevator, second floor elevator stop here. The other one's inside the cafeteria to the other way. Hopefully they'll get in here in the next couple of months and start doing the elevator install. As we walk through here, you kind of get a feel for it. You got the media center over in this area, and then more classrooms to the right. And the trades, as you see, there's not a lot of trades here. They're all moving forward down there to try to get me more inspections so we can start drywalling and everything else.
And then the media center will have walls here too.
There's walls here.
Both sides,
yep.
But overlook on each side,
yep.
Correct?
And then the main communicating stair will be here. We'll start installing that next week. That's a stair here, but this one actually has the seating in here, yep. On this one here. That comes up in here, and like I said, that'll be installed next week. And again, that open concept we have with the beams and everything else gets you a lot of natural light coming through here. So those doorways and rooms here, a door going to the catwalk will be only allowed by staff and everybody else, so we'll let the kids up there. But now you can kind of see the control booth is here, so you can get a feel for the auditorium starting to take a little bit better shape. Ductwork onto the stage will be here in a couple of weeks, and we'll start grading. Hopefully by the end of next week, we'll be in here grading this auditorium to start doing the concrete and the raised tiered seating in the auditorium. But you can kind of get a feel for where you're at now. We're starting to do some of the outside work here because it's going to be a little bit harder to reach once we actually pour the stairs and do the tiered seating.
No, just from above, as we said, the main offices will be on the right side. Central office where the superintendent and staff will be on that back corner. Then we have the arts wing, which would be music and chorus area. And we hope to have a lot of art displayed on the outside as well, as we have a courtyard for art. So this will be a pretty active area.
You'll kind of see the open windows here. The outdoor seating is right down underneath us here. There'll be a practice field here and two other fields on the side, so you'll get a good view of what's going on here at the end of the day when we're all done. But there's seating out in the outside here, right below there where that lull is.
Just as a reminder, the building we plan to move in August of 26, so 1 year from now. It will take an additional year to finish all of the outside fields and to knock down the second half of the building. So from the auditorium over will be knocked down for the first day of school next year, and then it will take the team another year to complete the whole site with all the additional fields.
But this E-wing too, E2 is kind of the same as D, more science rooms and more of the classrooms here, kind of the same shape as we were down there. We're doing in-wall rough, overhead's pretty much done, and we'll kind of move ourselves through here with blocking and running our way through.
So as we walk in and you go past the auditorium on your right and we continue on, you'll come to the LGI, which is the large group instruction room. This is the room we'll be using for meetings of committees in towns. Teachers can bring their classes here for multi-class activities. And as I spoke before, behind it will be that art kind of outdoor area. We'll have some seating in there, some places to sit and such, and that's that art wing to the right. as well.
You can also notice a lot of companies now are doing prefabs. If you take out, those are the gang bathrooms, right? So that comes from the plumber's shop. They do that in a controlled environment, so that's all set for the toilets and everything else. Men's room over there, you can see the urinals are a little higher, and then the bathrooms underneath. And so what happens is he'll take these and we'll actually plant them into the locker room when we start doing the block work, so it's already preset. And then he's just piping from there. They're already done, tested, and ready to go. So it adds us a little, gives us a little bit more time. So as I mentioned before, everything has a process, right? So the way these guys all work together, we do the AVB on the foundation, we do the AVB in the walls, we make sure all the exterior penetrations are through the building, right? Because when they come through the building, you can see down the bottom, we have to seal all that. Because we do a blower door test, we make sure the building's airtight. And as that crew finishes, then we start with the mason. The mason will start with a crew that just does granite. So these guys will do granite, set the granite on the bottom, they'll do the through wall flashing. Any water that gets in the wall weeps out up top of the granite. And then as we walk by, there's a crew ahead of us that's doing the insulation and the clips. So that crew does the insulation and clips ahead, so the masons, all they have to do is lay brick. They don't have to stop to do insulation, they don't have to stop to do flashing, they're just installing brick. So their production goes higher. And the goal, like I was telling Greg, is about 450 brick a day to 600 brick. It's a little bit more difficult job, so this is more around the 400 and a quarter, 450 per mason per day to lay bricks. But this is a very difficult job with the projections and the type of it, so it lowers our production. Okay. Right? And like I mentioned earlier, the brick's a little bit more porous, so it sucks the mortar up, so they can only do a couple courses. They got to make sure they tool it, or it gets hard and they're taking things apart. You can see what's sticking out of the building, the stainless steel, right? Those are actually going to be sunshades that'll be above the window, so they'll help a little bit, deflect a little bit of the sun. But those all had to be installed, obviously, prior before we get here, so at the end of the day, we're just putting on the shades and just kind of as our finishing touch.
And then greenhouse
right here. Greenhouse is right here.
So this is on the back side of the science wing. The small greenhouse is starting to take form here. You can see the foundation.
But you can see how we try to attend to all the through wall penetrations, right? If we don't have those in now, cutting those in later and making those sealed is next to impossible. So the trades will always argue with you, why do you need it now? I need it now because this is what's going on, right? You know, that outside sillcock needs to be installed or I'm not getting it in later. So here's another good look at the process, right? We got the granite, we got brick, and now we got precast, right? So,
brick, precast.
And then precast. And then as you go over the windows of that, like we were talking earlier, there'll be a loose lentil and a precast will go on top of it. Then they'll flash that back to the window to make sure that, back to the building, excuse me, so make sure the water doesn't leak through the windows.
And again, back hearkening to the quarry, the days of the quarry, the precast, we had the architects design it to give a hint back to the redstone of old.
So now you can see right now this elevation is done. You can see it looks a little bit wet because these gentlemen now what they're doing is that you can see them with a brush and a little bit of cleaner in the solution. They clean the brick, they clean all off the extra mortar, they'll rub it with a stone, making sure, if you take a little look, you can see some of the mortar and pieces are still on the brick as they go through, right? So the gentlemen on the bottom here, what they'll do is they'll come through, they'll wash through and they'll clean it, and that's what's happening right now, as we can see the difference on that brick versus the one that's laid here. It's a little bit different final texture. But here's a good contrast. The left is clean and the right is not, right? So that's kind of how, as they're done, how that all works, right? And then once that's done, we'll come by and we'll caulk that joint with an expansion joint, which color will match the brick. So as you can see here, we've started the building clockwise, right? From the B building, I wanted to get off the roof so the roofer could kind of tie all that in. That's kind of why that's still wet down there. We haven't tied the roof in. But as he's washing down there, we're bringing ourselves around here because the goal is to get this road paved this winter, to get this over, so we have better access to the building, and then we're going to clean him up and the trades will fall behind here. The last time we walked through here, you saw all the infrastructure for all the electrical came out to this yard out here. There's tons of electrical piping that we saw earlier, and now we've incorporated that into these pads here. This is our generator, which is coming in October. We got transformers and switches on the other side, which that is going to control all our building power here. And like I mentioned before, the power is going to come from Maple Street to behind the concession building. The concession building, that's going to run the stadium. There are other conduits that continue to here, to run to here, and then it goes from here to the building, that electrical we were talking about earlier, and that'll light the building up.
Mark, a good example here of the pattern of the brick as well. You mentioned the difficulty of it, the complexity, and as again, the architects tried to offer some texture and some color, and you can see that demonstrated here.
Right. So all that plays into the labor aspect, right? But the guys are doing a great job, and as they move to the building, they'll get better, right? making sure we're all good and happy with their actual, what they're doing, their craftsmanship, and making sure we're accepting it. And then we go from there. But you can see now the precast over the windows, and that's why those are left out, because the precast goes in there underneath the plastic. So they kind of protect the precast a little bit, because as they're cleaning, the precast is more absorbent of the water and everything else. So we don't want to soak that until we get to it, and we bring it down, clean it a little bit different cleaner.
Wow, very intricate.
Yeah, we always started the academic wing because there's more work and more repetition for the trades. The more repetition they get, the faster they can go, the cleaner it is. And then they move forward as we get to the other building. There's not as much work for each trade, so it makes it a little bit easier for manpower. We load up in the beginning and then we work our way around the building.
And then when do windows go in?
Windows
here?
are scheduled for October.
Okay.
So right now we have the clips and the receivers for the windows now. The goal again is to get him to finish here, clean up this by next week. This is moved and out of the way. We'll look at some clips. We'll look at getting ready for the windows. But the windows have to go in after the masonry, because again, with what they use for a cleaner and everything else, and where the mason goes, dropping the mortar, everything will scratch all that window. So we need him out of the way, and then we do the finishes afterwards.
So how long for the masonry on the whole building and to close it up with the windows?
So the masonry is scheduled to go to in through January.
Okay.
To go around the building. It's definitely be into the winter.
They can lay bricks in the winter?
Oh yeah,
Yep.
so it'll all be temperature controlled. So
Yep.
we tent in, we heat, we everything else, and then we
Wow.
put blankets in every night. The goal is for the mason to get as much done before it gets too cold, because again, he owns all the winter protection. So when you look at the big financial picture, right, costs a lot of money to have people just tent and heat to keep things ready, because we'll be watching him all the time and checking the temperature of his mortar. We'll be checking the temperature of the tent, making sure before you can lay, it's not too cold. The last thing you want is your mortar to freeze. Right. So his incentive is I've given him, or we have given him enough of this building where there's no reason why he can't have screws on that. And you'll see that's why he's in building E, setting up hydros, doing the insulation, and then he can do ahead of time for the mason. Makes that their job a little easier and quicker.
And the
and
mason
they will
is
pick
one
up as they go.
contractor?
One contractor, lighthouse masonry.
Lighthouse masonry.
Yep.
Cool.
And as they go, they'll understand the patterns better, they'll understand the precast better, they'll understand the details, and they'll be able to go as they go through, they'll be able to pick up their pace a little bit and understand the quality that we're looking for. So if you look where we're standing here, locker room area, office area, the pool building, you have the two vestibules here that comes in, and like Gordon, we mentioned earlier, that silver beam, that is, let me show them, the gray beam is where that one door is, a 3-hour wall will be coming through that building into the pool here. So that'll be your access. And then as you walk in through here, you'll be able to walk into the pool room. Right, actually you can see the pool right here. Our goal is to pour this section here. The mechanical space is all over here. You can see the electrical that goes underground. Again, everything that's fed needs a lot of power, a lot of raceways and everything.
And as Mark talked about the vestibule, the reason we designed the vestibule the way we did is so we could separate the pool from the school itself and hopefully have an entrance point for the community to come use the pool if the school itself is not using it. So we hope to establish with the rec department a regular schedule where community members can come use the pool. As I said, it will be separate entrance from the school, locked off separate. And in the design, specifically stairs were put into the side of the pool, make it easy entrance and access for all levels of swimmers. The pool building committee decided to make the pool 3 feet wider, and what that does is gives us an opportunity for the lane lines on the, oh, we forgot?
Yes.
Dig it up.
Damn it.
Will allow us to put lane lines on the outside of the pool as well to stop those wakes, to make each lane equal in terms of wake feedback. Should be the nicest pool in Western Mass. It will be. Just in terms of, for those that are interested in the Hall of Fame and all the plaques that we have up in the building, those plaques will be handled by the Hall of Fame committee, sent in return to a lot of the athletes, and they've decided to do an electronic kiosk. And so if you come visit the school and want to look up past participants, past winners of the Hall of Fame honorship, that'll now be electronically on a kiosk here, I believe, outside the gym. Also harkening back to the days of quarries, I know it's an overwhelming theme here, but we've named the pool the Redstone Quarry Natatorium, in a nod back to the history of East Longmeadow as well. And outside of the pool area, we'll have some pictures of the existing quarry, the one way on the other side of town that's now full of water, and we'll talk about the history of East Longmeadow for people that are visiting. So again, taking consideration of the locker rooms, we have access to the outside so that those, say, football teams or soccer teams can come in, use the locker rooms, or literally a stone's throw from the stadium, much closer than we were with the old building.
So as we come through here, Jamie, you can kind of see the sprinkler lines are going through. We're going through here, the same idea with the bathrooms again that we had over there. And then we're going through, you can see all the classrooms starting to take shape. We work our way through. So again, you know, another electrical room, right? You see how we pull the wires, we make this room a little easier, and now we're starting to pull, and they'll start to terminate when they get the guts of the panels inside. The panels will come from their shop, and then they'll tie all those in, and they'll all be labeled. Like I mentioned before, this is a rated room, Greg. So now you saw the carpenter on the other side, she was spraying the white for the acoustical. This is the red for the fire rated wall. A little bit.
Because it's an electrical room.
Electrical room, two layers, right? Gives you 2 hour rating. But you can kind of see how they, you know, like we were talking about the plumber, how things come from the shops and everything else pre-done. Griffin Electric does the same thing, right? So those are whips, and normally what they'll do is they'll go in a box, as you can see, like up in here, right? So from their layout, they'll do the layout, and the guys in the field will install the boxes, and they know the ceiling is 11 foot or 10 foot 6. This pipe goes in there, comes above the ceiling. They're not bending these in the field. The labor in the field is so much more intense than the apprentices in the shop. So this will come in here, they'll know the length, they'll know the size, and those will go in there just like we looked at the plumber. Same thing here. Same thing in HVAC, they'll do all their hangers in the shop because they know the elevation of the floor and the elevation of the ceiling, and the elevation that Danielle has coordinated in the ceilings, and those will already be pre-done. They'll put those in the ceiling, and that's the level of their pipes.
Okay, I want to thank Mark and Danielle from Fontaine for taking us through today. The building is certainly coming along. It looks awesome. It's going to be awesome. And Jamie, thank you so much for all your work, and we'll see you on the next tour.